This video was originally going to cover just how I build the island in Minecraft, but while writing the script, I ended up filling it mostly with real-world discussions, especially in the latter half of the video, so expect a big amount of not Minecraft related informations. Also expect some political takes that you may not share.
A loophole that allows accused and convicted American pedophiles to escape justice by moving to Israel.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy.
One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts, has made allegations against you. She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating.
Every minute I spent with him, I regret and I apologize that I Fight! Fight! Fight!
We all know what happened on the island of Little St. James. This is by no means an obscure topic. Still, I will delve into the most interesting things that happened, and while doing that, I will reconstruct the entire island at 1:1 scale, with as many details as possible. The island I will build is based on the looks it had around 2017-2019, so just a little bit before Epstein was caught. Let's stop wasting time and start building. The first step was quite obvious. I just downloaded a 3D model and put it in Minecraft with obj to schematic.com, which is a site that can transform a 3D model or surface into voxel and then into Minecraft blocks. In this way, I put Little St. James into Minecraft. The model had tons of problems, but overall it has the right shape. So now it's just a matter of applying the correct colors and making every detail. It will take some time, but the end result should come out quite good. I started by outlining the path and the buildings on the island, to then paint with ease the grassy and rocky areas. It was quite a simple operation, mostly thanks to the help of a reference image and Google Earth, but the island is pretty big, so I can't really make any worthless detail precise to the foot. Some things will be left in an imperfect state. For example, I can't make every tree and bush accurately. I just made a dozen different palms, trees and bushes, and used the stamp tool to copy and paste them around the map. There is not much I can say about real-world history here, except showing you how little Epstein likes trees. When he bought the island in 1998, it was a lush tropical jungle, but in a few years he built so many buildings on it, especially around 2010, that the US Virgin Island government sent some letters of complaint because he had asked for too many building permits. At the same time, he completely gave away to the forest many dirt paths. I guess he didn't care for them, and just wanted to keep the most important ones to connect the main structures on the island, which, as we will see later, are strangely distributed. While painting all the natural features on the island, I built the two small lagoons found near the north and west coast. One was left in its original wild state, with the water still looking quite muddy and dirty. The other was transformed into a manicured pond in 2013, with some plants, a fountain, and some benches nearby. They aren't important in any meaningful way to Epstein's story, but I still wanted to mention them, as I really love nature, and lagoons like these seem quite common features in the US Virgin Island. Also, I was able to build them in no time, they were in no way a hassle. On the island, there are two big flagpoles that fly the American flag. One on the northeastern tip, the other on the completely opposite side of the island, on a peninsula that stretches southwest. Why are they on the island? A really cool thing we can do is go on Google Earth and see when they were built. Remember that Epstein bought the island in 1998. The flagpoles were both built around 2004, so he, or someone very close to him, was the one that wanted them built. The structures nearby were built years later in 2009 and 2013 respectively. The one in the northeast is a pool area with palms, chairs, a white cabana with a grey roof, and even a diving board. I don't really know why, but there are many images of this area floating online, so I think I did a very accurate job at building it. I will search a bit more about it, because I didn't find anything special. But then, why are there so many photos of it circulating online? Maybe some kind of naughty activity involving underage girls happened here? Probably yes, but I didn't find any specific story explicitly involving this place. Maybe I just missed it. The other building is older. Construction began around 2009, but they continued adding details around it in the years following. I built the island as it looked around the time Epstein was caught in 2019, but I wasn't able to find any picture of it taken after completion from ground level. I'm not even sure what is the purpose of the building. I can guess it's not a shed because there are chairs and nice things around it, like a sand and gravel garden, so I think it's just a room with a nice sea view. Maybe this is where some guests slept, but I don't really know. This island certainly does not need more room for guests. Stick out to the end of the video to see what I mean. Also, if you like the video, please subscribe. Thank you if you do. By the way, I am very proud of the design I made for the flag. I came up with it on my own, and it's quite good. The only problem with using science is that from afar, like all entities, they stop being visible, but the build still works. There are many small buildings scattered throughout the island. I searched for many of them, but I found nothing. At best, some low-quality photos taken from a drone. To me, they appear anything but important, but I still built them. They are mostly small white sheds with grey or light blue roofs. Because of the limited photos I was able to find, many of these buildings are mostly built on my interpretation and some guesses I made from Google Earth coverage. For some buildings, I was able to find some decent images. For example, there is a cluster of 4 near the peninsula in the northeast of the island, where the mansion is located. 2 are clearly just places where they store the construction materials and vehicles. There's a lot of stuff lying around those buildings, including some loaded trucks. They were built respectively in 2006 and 2010. They have a metal exterior that I replicated with deepstone, but the other two buildings seemed more complex, so I searched if they were something interesting. They were built between 2009 and 2013. In various documentation I found, they are called just Maintenance 1 and Maintenance 2, so I guess they were used for that. They don't have big doors like the other two sheds nearby, so they were not used as garages for vehicles, I can tell you that much. They also seem to have sturdy walls built with rocks or bricks, which you wouldn't expect from a completely random building meant to be a temporary shed. Another detail I noticed only after a while is the amount of doors on one of these buildings. It even appears to have no windows, but at the same time, it has 7 small doors on a single facade. This is strange. It makes me think the inside is divided into many smaller rooms. Maybe it's where the people who worked on the island slept or kept their stuff. I don't really know, but this last one is the possibility that convinces me the most. In the east part of the island, we can find a helipad. It's not long enough for a plane to take flight or land, but it is strangely elongated for a helipad, which is normally about the same length in both directions. Epstein traveled by airplane frequently, logging 600 flying hours a year, but from what I know, he landed on the nearby island of St. Thomas when he used his private jet, which, by the way, is a 40-meter long Boeing 727-100 that cannot even dream of landing on an 85-meter long strip. Near the helipad, there are also 2 small buildings with an unclear function. I guess they are just the place where they kept the tools to maintain the helipad. Moving on to something more interesting. Why is there a giant sundial in the center of the island? Like most structures we find here, it was built after Epstein bought the island, around 2013. By itself, it is nothing too strange, if you don't consider a 60 feet wide sundial strange, which it is kinda strange, you know. But let's forget that part. The part I considered worth looking up was the sun icon painted on the ground. A sundial uses the sun to tell time, so you would think it isn't that strange, but we are talking about a very, very peculiar guy who didn't left anything up to chance. The sun with a face can mean many things, and no, it's not a symbol of Baal. Slow down, don't write that comment. First of all, Baal was a title mostly given to the Canaanite god of storms, Hadad, so a sun would mean the complete opposite of Baal. A sun with a face can be a symbol for some gods, like the Greek Helios, or even the Christian God himself. A sun with a face is probably one of the simplest things you can come up with. Maybe Jeffrey just thought it looked good, but I doubt something this simple. He is no simple man. He is an overthinker. Who knows what cogs were turning in his mind when he decided to build that thing? Maybe he didn't even ask for the sun decoration. He just wanted a cool sundial. Nah, that can't be right. What are other possible meanings? Well, this is kind of a long connection, but the sun in splendor is a symbol commonly associated with the New Age religious movement, and one of the most prominent figures of the movement, Deepak Chopra, had a lot of connections with Epstein, to the point of sending him emails such as "God is a construct," "Cute girls are real," or "Bring your girls to a spiritual event that I'm leading." After this surfaced, he was removed from his position of power by his own followers. Also on Epstein Island, different books about New Age spirituality were found. The connection is thin, but it's still there, and it's the only possibility I found. If you have a better theory, please write it in a comment. Epstein always gave a lot of value to physical activity, so it doesn't surprise me that there is a tennis court on the island. I bet that if the island was flatter, he would have built a golf course instead. There are no interesting features here, it's just a normal golf course. The only strange thing I found is that it was dismantled in early 2018 for no apparent reason. The mansion is the name commonly given to the main complex of buildings found on the island. It's located on a peninsula in the northeast. It's comprised of a main residence with walls made of a dark volcanic rock, a blue roof, and a white porch. Near the main residence, we can find 4 smaller single-story structures, the 4 guest cabanas. They have a similar style to the main building and were used to accommodate guests like his best friend, Donald Trump, which, may I remind you, is the current president of the USA. Other important figures were people like Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, Noam Chomsky, Bill Gates, Stephen Hawking, Robert Kennedy Jr., the stupid anti-vaccines that is currently the USA Secretary of Health and Human Services, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, called by Epstein a great friend by the way, and many more disgusting human beings. All of the buildings I just mentioned are around a pool area that sits on the highest point of the peninsula. Near the pool, there are various little things, but the strangest is a bronze statue of a muscular man with clear sub-Saharan facial features. He is depicted in the stance of an archer, drawing a very heavy bow. This is apparently a copy of The Archer by Belgian sculptor Arthur Dupagne. While it is hard to know how a copy of this statue ended up on Epstein Island, in a way it's fitting to see that specific statue on his property. Epstein was someone who saw people as objects. And this statue not only undermines the horror of the Belgian Congo, but also exemplifies the colonial era trope of the African as a primitive savage. In this case, the statue is unambiguously stereotypical. The man is depicted like a wildlife, dehumanized, reduced to his basic instincts. In front of the main residence, we find a flat area with a yellowish stone floor that has 2 nautilus shells as decoration. They usually symbolize perfection and harmony, and between the 2 shells, as decoration on the floor, we find a capital E, just to demonstrate Epstein's ego even more. Other than the structures around the pool area, we find 3 more buildings on the peninsula. They are all residences that Epstein used for himself or for the dearest and finest guests, these 3 buildings use the same style as most other buildings of this area. They have light blue roofs, dark stone walls, and some white details. Only one appears to have 2 floors, the other 2 are single-story. A small dock is also located near this area. One interesting thing is that the mansion area is practically the only place that dates back before 1998. It was built in the 50s, so a lot of time before Epstein bought the island. You can see a clear divide in the style things were built. On the island, we also find 2 other double-story residences built by Epstein, one with 3 big dark doors, the other is somewhat near the helipad, and it's white. I wasn't able to find any decent image of this one, so enjoy the satellite view. A very peculiar building that is far from everything else on the island, with which all of you are probably familiar, is the strange blue and white one, often called temple. Originally, it was planned as an octagonal music pavilion, and to Epstein's credit, inside it there was indeed a piano, as testified by a piano tuner who went there in 2012. An instrument he knew how to play from the age of 5. Inside the temple, there was also an empty bookshelf and a strange picture that represents him and his wife in a jolly attitude next to Pope John Paul II. I don't really know the story behind this image, but it is certainly something. The inside of the temple was decorated with rectangular patterns painted on wooden boards, put on all walls to make the room soundproof, which, coupled with its isolation, makes me think that very bad things happened inside this building. The area around the temple is white with red geometrical decorations and multiple white benches. Some people have tried giving meaning to these decorations, but I wasn't able to find anything that holds even the smallest amount of water. Some people even said that the benches were sacrificial altars to Moloch, which I don't really get. They are just benches, okay? There are like 7 benches in this area, which is a bit too much, and 4 are like one next to the other, next to the cliff. But, you know, I think we still need to be grounded in reality. I really don't believe that human sacrifices were made on this bench. The exterior of the temple is even weirder than the interior. It's painted with 8 blue stripes. It has a glass door on the back side, 1 window on each side, and a fake painted wooden door on the front, even complete with real hinges. Yeah, the one you thought was the entrance to the building is completely fake. The actual door is on the front. On the roof sits a golden dome, which was blown away by a hurricane in 2017. The temple and the surrounding area was completely painted white in 2023 for some unknown reasons, because they didn't touch any other building on the island, to my knowledge. And they also covered all the windows and the door with steel and wooden boards. Atop this structure, we can also find multiple statues of birds, which some say resemble owls and crows, and a statue of the Greek god Poseidon. The bird statues are near another god, the god of the sea, of which we can easily deduce the meaning. After all, we are on an island, so not much thinking is required to guess why Poseidon is there. But the birds may symbolize something else, maybe another god. And guess what god uses the owl as its symbol? Athena, of course, which is the goddess of wisdom and war, but also Moloch, the ancient Canaanite god linked with human sacrifices, which is rumored to be worshipped by Epstein. The crow could be linked to Odin, god of knowledge, dark magic, and a very cunning character that is ready to do anything if the return is worth the cost. Crows in general are connected to magic, especially the dark variety, and to the concept of death, the consumption of carrion, and in some cases, even human sacrifices. I know this is all just speculation, but there are many rumors about supposed rituals to Moloch happening on the island, and Epstein had many connections with members of the Bohemian Groove, even if he wasn't a member himself. So I don't know if something like this happened on the island. If you ask me right now, I would probably say that I don't believe it happened, but if it did, it wouldn't really surprise me that much. Statues that represent eagles or hawks are also present in other areas of the island. They are really big, around 2 meters tall, but at the same time, I wasn't really able to find any image of decent quality, so I'm not even 100% sure they are birds of prey. Some may say they resemble doves, which would be quite strange, because doves are a sign of peace, so seeing a sign of peace on this island would be interesting, if it's not the other kind of peace. Anyway, if they are birds of prey, they may symbolize power or strength. In the Bible, eagles are also used to symbolize divine intervention and judgment. Even if they don't have a deeper meaning, I think we can all agree on how out of place they look. They almost remind me of ancient Egyptian statues of the god Ra and Horus. In the end, a question remains: why it is called a temple? Epstein was never a pious man, but he was a part of a Jewish family, and temple, in that context, is a very heavy word, so I think it's fair to assume the name didn't come from him. From what I was able to find, people just started calling it that after the dome was built, because of the many mysteries behind it and almost sacred appearance. The temple was the last structure to build. Now, enjoy the project showcase, and may you listen to me one last time. I consider myself quite left-leaning, but you don't need to believe in a specific political ideology to hate people like Epstein and to see how much wrong there is in the current way things work. In general, I think no one should be able to do what he did just because of money and power. We live in a really depressing world. The more you learn about what really happens out there, the more you will hate the people currently in power. I hope anyone here understands the gravity of the situation. Something that has been known for years, yet almost nothing has been done about it. And now the guy best friend is the president. You can't understand how happy I am to live outside the USA right now. To alleviate the stress we all are experiencing right now, I just wanted to build this simple thing, Little St. James at 1:1 scale. It has been a simple project, don't get me wrong, nothing that complex, but while building it, I felt the weight. While searching for information to put in the script, I realized the seriousness of the situation. I am unable to take lightly a situation as serious as this. It's become really hard to laugh at what is happening in the real world, but at the same time, it's more important than ever. So in the future, I think I will make more of this style of videos, where I talk about real world heavy stuff in a more simple manner and while playing Minecraft to relax a bit. I hope after you watch this video you will go read some real articles about current events, things that really matters. See you next time, and please learn about the outside world. Today that is more important than ever.